Hi, my name is James Wyatt, and I was the lead designer for Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. The book is named for Fizban the Fabulous, who is a character from the Dragonlance novels. A central idea of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is that dragons are inherently part of the material plane. They are creatures of the material world more than maybe any other creatures. They were there when the first world was created, the first expression of the material plane, and they're really part and parcel of its nature. In the novels, he appears to be a sort of befuddled old wizard who journeys with the heroes of the story for a while. It turns out, characters discover along the way, he's actually a human incarnation of Dragon God. So we figured this was the perfect voice as a narrator or a provider of inside information on dragons in the D&D multiverse. His perspective is eccentric, always entertaining, sometimes wildly inaccurate, but should definitely be fun. One part of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons that I'm super excited about is the introduction of gem dragons into 5th edition D&D. I am old enough to remember 1980 getting my copy of Dragon Magazine number 37, I think, when there was an article in there called "That's Not in the Monster Manual" that introduced these 5 new kinds of dragons. The amethyst, crystal, sapphire, topaz, and emerald dragons, along with Sardior, the ruby dragon, who was the progenitor of the gem dragons. What we've done in introducing these dragons to 5th edition is weave their story together with Bahamut and Tiamat as they created the first world, along with Sardior, who was the firstborn of creation. Sardior helped them in making both the chromatic and the metallic dragons, but with the destruction of the first world, Sardior was also destroyed, and his consciousness was fragmented into zillions of pieces that are in fact the gem dragons, or so the legend says. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Gem dragons have a special awareness of their connection to dragons and other worlds. They are more able to develop their dragon sight, to build their connections to their echoes on other worlds. And so gem dragons really have a lot of possibilities for exploring this avenue of storytelling.
So let's talk about dragons. We have a new group called the Gem Dragons. The Gem Dragons use psionic powers. They have a different connection. So part of the way that is shown visually is that all of those dragons have their own areas that float away from their body, that are held by some kind of psionic energy. It's almost like their spikes or their different areas of their frills are held in place by some kind of gravitational pull to their being. And that makes them very unique and beautiful.
Since they are living in a material world, they are material creatures, and their hordes are very important to them. There's a sort of magical idea here that a dragon's lair is part of its connection to the material plane, and its horde in particular sort of focuses the magic of that connection. And that's why the environment around a dragon's lair changes with the regional effects that we see in the Monster Manual, and we've added a lot more possibilities for what those regional effects might be. And that's why dragons collect hordes and why their hordes are so important to them, is that that's really the focal point of the magic that links them to this plane. We really spent a lot of time in a chapter on layers and hordes, and then within the Draconomicon exploring what layers and hordes look like for each kind of dragon. Different dragons have different preferences when it comes to the kinds of treasures they like to collect. Often that's as simple as, I like gems that are the color of my scales. Other times it's like sapphire dragons are really into history and tend to collect objects that have historical significance.
Usually when we are doing the traditional cover and the alternate cover, the idea for what the cover shows is a different sort of thing. We don't usually have 2 artists depicting the exact same thing, and yet for this book we decided to do that. Both books have the crystal dragon fighting the red dragon, but done with 2 totally different hands, so there's no confusing that they're 2 different books. I really found inspiration from an image that Chris Ron did of the gold dragon. He's flying over water, and you can see the light shimmering off of the membrane of his wings and reflecting in the water in the background. It's just a gorgeous piece. And we were able to use that in the book. I think that he just did a beautiful job on that.
One of the things this book will help you do is pair up dragons of different kinds with creatures of different kinds as you populate a dragon's lair and the area around it, or a dungeon that happens to have a dragon in it. And then another big part of the book is lots of other monsters, not just dragons, but lots and lots of monsters for you to populate your adventures with.